Sunlight bathes the hospital exterior, but cannot pierce the fear within. A tattooed man screams frantically for his boss, only to collapse onto a bench, utterly drained and gasping for air. Inside, a comrade curls up in agony on a stretcher. Nearby, another sits in the shadows, cigarette smoke swirling around a gaze filled with survivor's weariness and deep exhaustion. "You're here too?" the bandaged man exclaims upon seeing his comrade. The other exhales smoke coldly, his sarcasm barely masking the anxiety for their other brothers. Pressed about the others, he lies through his teeth. "Taken care of." They clash in the hospital room, using angry arguments to mask the shame and lingering fear of their total defeat. Finally, they touch upon the core issue that student. Head bowed, voice trembling, he admits he was blinded by rage, seeking revenge only to invite this catastrophic counterattack. Terrifying memories flood back. The punch that knocked him out cold still haunts him. He thought he would die in that relentless assault, never expecting the monster to spare his life. In that desperate brawl, the boy descended like a demon. He effortlessly dismantled everyone, dropped a simple, "We're even," and vanished, leaving only groaning bodies in his wake. Dead silence fills the room. They exchange a glance, no longer holding contempt, but deep awe for that supernatural power. That boy is absolutely a monster. "Ha, just a normal student." The scarred man chuckles bitterly. Beneath the blood-stained title, the terrifying truth behind that identity lurks. Meanwhile, in a completely different world, intense confrontation unfolds. Red and blue lights clash, speed and power colliding in a dazzling burst of sparks. The scene snaps to the sunset-lit school grounds. A piercing whistle halts the intense soccer match as the coach angrily calls a foul. "Think you're a goalie?" Facing his teammates' roar, Aijin holds the ball, awkwardly realizing his combat instincts don't apply to the soccer field. Shadows lengthen in the sunset. Though classmates eagerly invite him for another round, Aijin politely steps back, his mind already elsewhere. "My sister hasn't been feeling well." The excuse silences his rowdy teammates, replacing noise with understanding looks as Aijin firmly heads toward her classroom. Inside, Dayun ponders the dinner menu when a sudden commotion outside and the cry of "Aijin Sunbae" make her eyes widen in shock. The corridor turns into a fan meeting. Girls crowd the door, gawking at the god from Olympus, before bombarding Dayun. "Does your brother have a girlfriend?" Blushing, Dayun stammers out a denial. The moment she turns away, she clenches her fist, an inner cheer of victory erupting in her heart. Walking under the pink-purple sunset, Dayun looks at her brother's back, torn between pride and puzzle. Why is he totally single when even the chaebol heiress asks about him? Meanwhile, friends at the school gate discuss the popular guy's love life, until Aijin approaches with his sister, cutting short their gossip. In the brief exchange, Yuna blushes, her eyes hiding shy affection. Urged on by friends, the siblings walk home together, leaving a warm silhouette against the setting sun. Facing Dayun's sharp intuition, Aijin hides his burden behind a calm lie, desperately trying to wall off his sister from the encroaching danger. Despite Aijin's reassurance, tears well up in Dayun's eyes. Her refusal to be a burden reveals a heartbreakingly mature strength. Aijin's gaze softens into a gentle compromise. He respects her wish for independence, but refuses to let go of his protective watch completely. A simple confession of wanting her company dissolves all anxiety. Under the sunset, their shadows merge, wrapping them in a rare, peaceful warmth. The warmth vanishes abruptly. Beside a black car, a man and woman stand in tailored suits, radiating an out-of-place, icy aura. Her gaze locks onto them like a hawk, violet gray eyes narrow with calculation, intrigued by the girl standing beside her target. She bluntly brings up the traumatic kidnapping. Aijin instantly stiffens, stepping forward to shield his sister from the intrusive words. Under the guise of gratitude, she extends an invitation. Aijin remains unmoved, his refusal cold, sharp, and absolute. She leans in, prying for secrets. Aijin clenches his fist, suppressing his irritation, his icy glare warning her to back off immediately. Stunned by his abrupt departure, she stands frozen. The woman used to total control is left staring at his back in utter disbelief. The bodyguard moves to pursue, but she halts him. Against a backdrop of red rage, her eyes burn with a mix of fury and twisted intrigue. Meanwhile, inside a noisy internet cafe, men in suits boast loudly under dim blue lights, the air thick with restless testosterone. A chance encounter in the hallway erupts into violence. Without warning, a fist flies, the sickening thud shattering the peace. The aggressor corners his victim, face twisted in menace. His arrogance crushes the student, who trembles in helpless terror. Hearing the relentless bullying, the boy in the orange jacket stops. Cigarette in mouth, he frowns, baffled by the absurdity of the aggression. Unable to watch, he steps in. Shielding the terrified victim, he calmly mocks the thug for making a mountain out of a molehill. The thug tries to intimidate, but under the other's icy stare, a sudden chill paralyzes him, cold sweat beating on his forehead. The conflict explodes. The thug grabs Yuna from behind, but instead of fear, he's met with eyes burning with defiant fury. Taken aback by her unexpected ferocity, the thug flinches. Behind Yuna, Jae-hyung stands pale and trembling, a stark contrast to her bravery. Yuna wastes no time, coolly ordering her friend to move. Still shaken, Jae-hyung has no choice but to follow her commanding lead. In the hallway shadows, Young-chan stares at Jae-hyung's back, disbelief washing over him as he realizes the rich gamer kid actually stepped up to help. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the classroom drops to freezing. Upon learning Young-chan was hassled by rival thugs, Jae-hyung and Yuna's eyes instantly sharpen. The tension in the car eases slightly as Jae-hyung breaks the silence. Young-chan forces a smile, trying to bury his lingering fear with casual talk of games. However, outside the neon-lit club, men in suits shatter the peace, while in the virtual battlefield, Jae-hyung commands his team intensely reality and gaming are about to collide. Screen light reflects on their tense faces. Brief, sharp confirmations exchange between teammates as sweat drips down, the air thick with the urgency of imminent battle. The virtual match is shattered by a real-world provocation, the menacing imitation cutting like a cold blade. Let's take this outside, dragging them into a brutal reality check. In the dim alley, crisis floods in. Young-chan's pupils constrict in terror, cold sweat dripping as he stammers helplessly. What do we do? Amidst the enemy's scorn, Young-chan's guilt is cut short by a counterattack. The figure in the orange jacket flashes a terrifyingly arrogant grin, showing zero fear. Before the words fade, a fist connects. The dull thud ignites pent-up rage, the taste of blood instantly escalating the verbal standoff into a vicious brawl. A thunderous punch lands, leaving the attacker clutching his face in agony, while Jae-hyung and Suk-ju stand side by side, advancing steadily, fear replaced by battle readiness. Seeing Young-chan trembling with guilt and sweat, Suk-ju turns, offering a warm, firm smile amidst the tension. Wipe that look off your face. It's not your fault, it's these scumbags. The words act like a shot of adrenaline, shattering Young-chan's guilt and relighting the fire in his teary eyes. Right in this touching moment, Jae-hyung clumsily mimics Ijin's catchphrase, spreading an awkward vibe that leaves even the tense redhead looking dumbfounded. But the awkwardness lasts only a second. The humiliated enemy, twisted in fury, roars and charges, launching a frantic assault that envelopes them once more. Chaos erupts. Heavy fists smash mercilessly into flesh. Amidst the shockwaves and blurred figures, there is only savage impact and the sound of groaning bones. Blood sprays with a heavy blow. The brutal sight drains the color from Young-chan's face, clutching his collar as fear grips his throat like a cold hand. But these boys don't back down. Jae-hyung, who has never fought, fights like a crazed lion, roaring his friend's name to drown out his own inner terror. The tables turn. Suk-ju advances on the panicked enemy with a confident smirk, coldly declaring, "You might be good at games, but out here, we rule." Yet the fight is harder than imagined. A breathless Suk-ju eyes the rising enemy, gaining a newfound, terrifying respect for Aijin's one-punch power. Under the night sky, a brutal fist tears through the air as Aijin dominates his opponent with cold, lethal precision, letting killing intent spread through the darkness. Nearby, Kosukju roars his friend's name, his red hair whipping as he violently pins another attacker to the ground, rage erupting instantly. Giving no chance to breathe, a heavy knee strike lands with a sickening crunch, instantly ending the enemy's resistance as groans of pain are lost in the wind. With a dull, heavy thud, the fight ends abruptly in the alley. Sukju stands over the collapsed opponent, his cold silhouette exuding suffocating oppression. Staring at the bloodied, unconscious enemy, flashes of his friend's helpless plea race through Sukju's mind, reigniting his anger with a fierce glare. "I was holding back." Sukju snaps at the teasing, but his tone softens instantly as he turns to check on Yeonchan with genuine concern. "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." Yeonchan lowers his head in guilt, fighting back tears, unaware his friends have already shielded him from the fallout. Meanwhile, Aijin walks down the dim staircase, sensing something is off as he stares at the unanswered messages on his phone with sharp intuition. When he arrives, he's greeted by the unscathed trio. Sukju smirks triumphantly. "You're late. You missed the whole show." "It was insane. They didn't stand a chance." They excitedly recount the brawl, the air buzzing with the thrill of victory and youthful recklessness. In the flashback, opponents lie scattered and broken in the dim basement, reduced to groans of pain under the overwhelming counterattack. "They attacked just because of our uniforms." The mood chills instantly as the reason is revealed, the shadow of fear seemingly returning to cover them. With the dust settled, the cafeteria bustles as usual. The starving boys line up, acting as if the violent clash was just a fever dream. Steaming ramen hits the table, and the boys fall back into their daily routine, bickering over who should go grab the drinks, friendship warming in the steam. "They thought we were weak, but they messed with the wrong guys." Jae-young chuckles with disdain as he digs into his noodles, brimming with confidence. Amidst the laughter, Aijin holds his rice ball in silence, his sharp instincts latching onto a crucial detail glossed over in the conversation. "How exactly did the fight start?" he asks suddenly, his calm voice carrying an undeniable seriousness that freezes the playful atmosphere instantly. Hearing Yeonchan was cornered alone, Sukju drops his smile, his voice turning hard and unforgiving. "If that happens again, don't you dare just take it." Pointing directly at Yeonchan, eyes blazing with frustration, he lectures, "First impressions are everything. If you act scared, they'll just trample you like trash. Fight back even if you get hit, or a coward stays a coward forever." The words land like a hammer blow, heavy with harsh truth, forcing weakness to exit. A debate on survival strategies unfolds. The blonde boy analyzes coldly. Silence invites contempt, and only fighting back guarantees peace. Yeonchan hesitates, conflicted. But Aijin's words cut through the doubt. "Whether you must fight back or simply can, I believe in you." Memory drags him back to a brutal past. In a desolate camp, young Aijin guards a precious meal, while suppressed curses in the air signal an approaching storm. He approaches the red-haired figure cautiously, offering food. But instead of gratitude, a dam of long-suppressed rage bursts open. A rough hand lashes out. Under the dark red shadows, a twisted face reveals the madness and resentment born of survival. Maniacal laughter pierces the air, and killing intent spreads like blood. Young Aijin freezes, staring into the face of pure, unhinged terror. Chaos erupts instantly. Screams and explosions tear through the silence of the wilderness, splashing fresh blood onto the dry earth. When the dust settles, only a deathly silence remains. Aijin stands amidst the carnage, the blood dripping from his fists the price of his survival. The survivors watch in horror. The silver-haired boy, bathed in blood with eyes of ice, looks like a demon risen from hell. The memory snaps shut. In the classroom, Aijin sits calmly, but his clenched fists still hold the tremors of the battlefield. Meanwhile, Yeonchan finally finds his voice, trembling but firm, To be honest, I hated you guys. The words freeze the air instantly. Bullying? Since when? Jae-hyung protests in panic, sweat pouring down his face. We were just joking. We never laid a hand on you. Compared to the real thugs, we're angels. He tries to justify himself. But for Young Chan, their verbal abuse was a recurring nightmare. No matter how mild you think it was bullying. Tears well up in Young Chan's eyes, his words shattering their mask of innocent jokes. Jae-hyung tries to argue, but the words die in his throat. Faced with raw pain, all excuses crumble, leaving only a suffocating silence. I really thought we did nothing wrong. The girl covers her mouth in shock. Jae-hyung lowers his head, finally realizing the depth of the wounds his ignorance caused. Like you said, it's bullying even without fists. Guilt washes over them. The girl, eyes red and voice trembling, chokes out, "I'm sorry." Jae-hyung smiles bitterly. "I'm sorry too. I know it doesn't change anything, but it's the only thing I can offer right now." To prove it's not just talk, Jae-hyung loosens his tie and dumps a massive lump of wasabi into soy sauce. Ijin watches this ritual of atonement coldly. "Hey! Are you crazy?" Amidst shocked screams, Jae-hyung raises the lethal special drink, ready to down it all as an act of penance. Lights blaze from the SW skyscraper, piercing the night sky. In her office, Shinjia works in silence until a voice outside breaks the calm, signaling an uninvited guest. The door bursts open as Yuna storms in, her bodyguard in tow. Jia looks up from her tablet, eyes narrowing slightly. "Yuna? What are you doing here?" "Yuni!" Yuna's shout cuts through the air. Jia raises an eyebrow coldly, but Yuna's fury is palpable. "You're investigating Ijin, aren't you?" Jia's expression darkens, a red hue filling the background as she counters Yuna's protest. "You suspected him too. Never forget the price people like us pay just to survive." "But he saved me," Yuna pleads, her voice trembling with emotion. Behind her, the bodyguard lowers his head, torn but firm. "Miss, for your safety, we have no choice. The documents are fake." The cold fact hangs in the air. Yet Jia smiles faintly, tapping her chin. "I'm actually glad you're here. The call revealing the truth should arrive any second." Jia confidently announces she's pulled strings at the highest level. The bodyguard turns to Yuna, asking the question hanging in the air. "Aren't you curious about who that kid really is?" "Not one bit." Yuna's gaze hardens, her conviction overriding fear. He saved her life, and that's enough. Suddenly, the sharp ring of the telephone pierces the moment. A triumphant smirk plays on Jia's lips as she eyes the ringing phone. She gestures to the others, confident of her victory. "Shall we listen to the truth together?" A finger presses the speaker button. A voice confirms the report is ready. Yuna shuts her eyes tight, holding her breath, bracing herself for the dark secret about to be revealed. The voice on the line shifts tone, and Jia's smug smile freezes instantly. Instead of intel, a command barks out. "Superiors have ordered SW Group to cease all investigation into you Ijin immediately." "What the hell is this?" Jia slams her hands on the desk, eyes wide with disbelief. She demands to know why they must ignore such a dangerous, unidentified variable. The voice on the line softens, contrasting with the tension as the image shifts to a warm family dinner. "He's just a boy separated from his family, who wants nothing more than to protect his regained happiness." Morning light bathes the school grounds the next day, appearing peaceful. Students gather in the corridors, but beneath the ordinary start, something unusual stirs in the air. Whispers ripple through the classroom as all eyes turn to the figure entering the door. Yuna has finally returned, looking calm but hiding a hint of shyness. As students wonder who Yuna is looking for, someone realizes something is wrong. "Wait, where's Ijin? He was just here a second ago. Did he evaporate?" Confusion spreads through the room as they stare at Ijin's empty seat. Friends look at each other, a strange tension growing in the class. "Big news! The SW Group chairman is at the school," a student shouts, checking his phone. Yuna's face pales, her heart skipping a beat. Grandpa came here without telling her? Panic rises in Yuna. He's here for Aijin. Meanwhile, in a quiet reception room, the imposing old man regards the student before him. Since you refused to meet, I had to come thank you personally. Thank you for saving Yuna. Aijin meets the chairman's gaze calmly. No. I saved my sister. Yuna was just extra. The old man's eyes gleam with newfound respect rather than anger. Aijin dismisses the apology with calm resolve, refusing to let the elder bear the weight of guilt. However, just as he turns to leave, a sudden request freezes him in his tracks. Aijin tries to hide behind the facade of a normal student, knowing full well that a security detail would shatter Yuna's ordinary life. But the revelation of Sukju's trauma-induced resignation strips away Aijin's ability to refuse easily. As his hand grips the door handle, the president drops the real bombshell debt from 3 years ago. The air thickens instantly, and in that moment, the student fades, replaced by the mercenary with awakened memories. Gratitude and weariness fill the old man's eyes. This boy was the one who fought to extend his son's life. Aijin tries to dismiss it as just a job, but the flicker of pain in his eyes betrays his grief for the fallen man. The gears of fate had locked 3 years ago, realizing Yuna's lineage. A sense of inescapable destiny washes over Aijin. Though knowing he doesn't belong in the light, Aijin makes a vow, driven by respect for the dead and an instinct to protect. Securing the promise, the president sheds his warmth, his gaze sharpening as he pivots to a present crisis. Mentioning SW's elite security team, the old man's tone drips with undisguised disdain and dissatisfaction. He needs a sharp blade to cut out the rot, and Aijin is the weapon he has chosen. Meanwhile, down the hallway, Sukju stands alone, swallowing the bitterness of failure and inner confusion. Back in the classroom, Yuna's bright smile creates a blinding contrast to the heavy conversation just moments ago. But Aijin's mind drifts away, the old man's words dragging him back to that blood-soaked forest. The floodgates of memory burst open, revealing a past of smoke and despair, where innocence trembled under gunpoint. Amidst the heavily armed mercenaries, the frail boy clutching a rifle stands out as a horrifying anomaly. Even in that cruel battlefield, that man looked past the hood and saw only a child in need of care. He handed over not a cold order, but warm food, a touch of kindness that made the boy's guarded eyes pause. Fragments of memory surface. That man with a gentle smile, maintaining an out-of-place concern even in the chaos of a war zone. Suspicion fills the mercenaries' table. To them, charity is just a rich man's game, every bite accompanied by cynicism toward goodwill. The sunset dyes the construction site in pink and purple. The man excitedly shows off the progress, while the young mercenary stands as a cold statue, guarding against the unseen. Until the box of chocolate with Korean text appears. In that moment, beneath the cold armor, the boy's gaze wavers imperceptibly. The distance of a rainy night weaves with a sunny farewell. I like you. The man's sincere words strike like a dull blade into the mercenary's sealed heart. Come visit me when you have time. Faced with this heavy promise, the boy's fingers tremble violently at his side, a struggle between suppressed longing and reality. More supplies are pressed into his hands. The boy finally snaps and asks, "Why be so kind to a mercenary with blood on his hands?" In this moment, the disguise falls away. The boy responds to the kindness in fluent Korean. The revealed reddish-brown eyes hold not coldness, but endless sorrow. Because you remind me of my daughter. The man's warm smile is as blinding as the sun, instantly melting the psychological defenses the boy had built for so long. But war is never merciful. The beautiful memories come to a screeching halt, replaced by the ruins of battle and a suffocating report of death. All the kind volunteers were killed. The boy kneels in the ruins, pupils trembling from the shock, as his world collapses into ash. Cut back to reality, forcing down the bloody memories. Yuna's shy invitation pulls Aijin from hell back to the warmth of the school. In the rest area, Sukju, once hostile, bows his head. It is a belated but incredibly sincere "I'm sorry." Ijin accepts the apology calmly. For him, understanding comes easier than holding a grudge, a maturity that leaves Sokju with mixed feelings. With the misunderstanding cleared, Yuna finally conveys her grandfather's invitation. But in the shadows, someone watches with a complex gaze. A new storm is brewing. At SW Group HQ, Executive Jia is furious. She finds it absurd and enraging that the chairman is opening his doors to this unidentified kid. That student has arrived. The subordinate's report interrupts her rage. Jia's eyes widen. She's determined to see exactly who this person is. The city lights shine under the night sky. In the locker room, Ijin, now in security gear, rests his chin in thought. The high schooler recedes. The mercenary instinct awakens. Facing the skeptical looks around him, Ijin remains indifferent. He is used to being scrutinized. Silence is his best camouflage. Recalling the chairman's request, just chat with the bodyguards. Looking at the ID photos, Ijin senses a familiar danger behind this seemingly casual mission. The executive confirms everything is arranged with a serious demeanor. Ijin, calm yet determined, states he isn't here to chat but to witness the brutal reality of bodyguard work. The instructor questions the boy's motives, asking why he isn't training. Ijin responds calmly, pointing out he belongs to Team 3, distinct from Team 2's schedule today. Despite unhealed injuries, the instructor coldly outlines the division. Team 3 guards Yuna, Team 2 guards Director Shin Jia. Ijin silently notes the clear-cut responsibilities. Sunset bathes the gym as a heavy silence hangs in the air. All eyes focus intently as the instructor prepares to introduce the special student. Commotion erupts as his identity is revealed. Realizing he's the student who fought alongside Ko Sokju, the trainee's scrutiny turns into pure shock. Facing a room full of skeptical glares, Ijin remains unmoved. He introduces himself briefly, his calm tone contrasting sharply with the palpable hostility. As the squad marches below, executives observe from above. Hearing of the boy's interest in bodyguarding, the female director muses that it might just be his destiny. The sunset paints the window crimson as Director Shinjia's gaze follows the silver-haired figure. Deep judgment and expectation brew within her clear blue eyes. The doors open, and Director Shinjia enters with a chilling aura. Seeing this, the female staffer freezes, heart racing, shocked by the executive's unexpected arrival. The director smiles confidently, as if the show has begun. Meanwhile, footsteps thunder in the hallway as Ijin leads the pack, his expression cold as steel. Faster! Last one pays. Roars echo through the hall as the instructor checks back, only to find the boy not just keeping up, but cruising through the punishing sprint. The intensity crushes the trainees. The blonde member doubles over, gasping for air, sweat pouring down as his lungs burn, barely managing to squeeze out a response. The instructor stares in disbelief at the silver-haired boy. While everyone else is on the brink of collapse, his breathing is steady, as if the hellish training was merely a warm-up. Before they can recover, the rope climb begins. Ijin ascends with fluid speed, his effortless movement leaving the struggling elites far beneath his feet in despair. He's a monster. Bystanders are floored by his overwhelming power. The Team 2 elites look clumsy beside him, deepening the amused smile in Shinjia's eyes. Ijin indifferently pulls up his hood, isolating himself. The outclassed team members exchange glances, shame mixing with hostility. Who exactly is this high school monster? Realizing they've been humiliated in front of the director, the blonde member turns pale with terror. Desperate to save face in the suffocating silence, someone shakily raises a hand. I want to test his combat skills. The blonde man's proposal instantly ignites the room. Shocked and furious, the instructor roars, "Are you crazy? You want to fight a student?" The atmosphere freezes instantly. The challenge is thrown, irreversible. A slight shift of a foot scrapes the floor. An unavoidable clash is imminent. Yuna covers her mouth in surprise, while Shinjia watches coldly. In the eye of the storm, Ijin stands silent, his gaze dark as an abyss, the look of a hunter facing prey. Facing skepticism, Ijin offers only a cold refusal. Frustration hangs in the air, a quiet calm before the storm. If there's no way out, gear up. As the helmet clicks shut, the boy's laziness vanishes, replaced by a gaze sharp as steel. Yuna's heart races with worry, but the bodyguard's heavy silence offers no comfort, only letting the unease spread. Smirks of disdain are exchanged. To these pros, this match is nothing more than a predictable, even laughable beatdown. The referee's warning does nothing to dim the killer intent in the opponent's eyes, while Ijin remains unnervingly calm. Taunts spill out with heavy breaths. The opponent grits his teeth, desperate to humiliate the boy with absolute violence. The moment the signal sounds, a red blur launches like a beast, crashing down with a force that seems to tear the very air. This scream through the air. Red murderous intent transforms into a storm of attacks, each strike aiming to shatter bone. This isn't sparring. Yuna covers her mouth in horror as the violence crosses the line into a brutal, one-sided assault. The sickening thud of impact echoes. The figure in blue twists in pain, as if his fragile defense has instantly shattered. Landing the hit, the red-helmeted fighter looks down with arrogance, eyeing his prey like a cat playing with a mouse. Had enough? The brutal scene causes pupils to dilate. Screams are trapped in throats as the violence escalates uncontrollably. A dirty strike to the blind spot. Ijin lets out a muffled groan, body doubling over as the crisis reaches its peak. The final kick lands without mercy, blood splattering. The opponent towers over the fallen figure, declaring a brutal end. Only 30 seconds? The cold numbers on the screen tick away like a countdown to doom, suffocating the room with tension. But as the rainy memory fades, Ijin removes his helmet. The sunset reveals eyes with no ripple of fear, only abyssal calm. So he's the only one losing control? Ijin's lips curl into a cold smirk. If it's a death match he wants, he'll get one. The tables turn in an instant. Disdain transforms into disbelief as everyone stands frozen, witnessing a monster awaken. Dust settles. As the so-called elites are carried out on stretchers, Ijin stands amidst the chaos, an immovable god of war. In the observation room, the executives' gazes harden. They finally realize this seemingly ordinary boy is the very problem who single-handedly dismantled the kidnapping crisis. Fear spreads like a plague among the guards as they watch their comrades fall, cold sweat dripping. Amidst the wavering morale, a hand shoots up. Someone still wants to challenge him. It's Choi Byung-suk, the security team's ace. Disgusted by his peers' defeat, his eyes burn with competitive fire, eager to crush this student himself. You must be tired. Are you sure about this? Byung-suk's words drip with condescending arrogance, attempting to psychologically dominate his opponent before the fight even begins. Facing the shocked crowd, Byung-suk rolls his wrists, his gaze wild with arrogance. That was just a warm-up for me. His confidence freezes the very air around them. Ijin stands expressionless in the center. His calmness, so unbefitting his age, wipes the smile off Byung-suk's face, forcing him to acknowledge this unfathomable opponent. Are you going to wear gear? Faced with the question, Ijin simply refuses, a calm dismissal born of absolute confidence in his own strength. The helmet is discarded, hitting the floor with a sharp clatter. This gesture acts like a silent slap in the face, instantly darkening Byung-suk's expression. Idiot! Byung-suk reveals a hideous sneer. The provoked beast bares its fangs. I'll make you regret this arrogance. From the sidelines, director Shin Jia watches with folded arms and a smirk. She has absolute faith in Byung-suk, the strongest shield forged by the SW group. In the moment of confrontation, the executives analyze silently. No weapons, pure hand-to-hand combat. The gap in physique and experience seems to determine the outcome, but does it really? The fight erupts. Byung-suk launches himself like an arrow, moving so fast he leaves an afterimage, aiming for a one-hit kill. However, Ijin's defense is an impenetrable iron wall. In the instant of the block, the immense recoil twists Byung-suk's face in pain. Boom! With just a single counter, terrifying force explodes, violently knocking back the arrogant ace as the air fills with the dull thud of impact. Beomsuk barely steadies himself, the contempt in his eyes completely vanished. Wiping blood from his lip, he admits for the first time, "You're stronger than you look." The clash resumes. Their figures blur, fists whistling through the air. Aijin's reaction speed is astonishing, every dodge precise down to the millimeter. Not enough. Beomsuk grits his teeth, trying to find an opening in the dense offensive, confident his defense can still hold. Suddenly, the tide turns. Beomsuk pulls a dirty trick in the clinch. Aijin's pupils constrict, instinctively sensing the danger. Despicable. The elite launches a devastating kick targeting the knee. As pain shoots through him, Aijin's gaze shifts instantly from calm to furious. If you won't play by the rules, don't expect mercy. Aijin stops holding back, delivering a thunderous punch to the jaw that ends it all in an instant. Without any flashy moves, Aijin instantly counters the heavy punch, his fingers clamping onto the joint like an iron vise. Accompanied by the sickening crack of bone, he slams the man into the ground amidst a feral roar, using absolute power. Blood stains his teeth. Even while pinned, his eyes burn with twisted madness, invoking the chill of a rainy battlefield. It's over. Aijin pins the man's head with one hand, cold and dominant like taming a beast, leaving the spectators breathless. Yuna covers her mouth in disbelief, while in the blue-violet shadows, Aijin's gaze is terrifyingly calm, as if he merely swatted a fly. Shattered the knee, broke the guard, then went for the throat. In the dead silence, the observer analyzes these lethal, killing techniques. Anyone else? Aijin scans the room indifferently, and the remaining security team is paralyzed by his invisible aura, sweating in fear. The blonde leader protests the brutality, only to meet Aijin's scornful retort. "Oh, were there rules? Sorry, I didn't know." The words slap the SW security team across the face. Under the setting sun, Yuna turns to ask her personal bodyguard his opinion of the boy. With a grave expression, the bodyguard admits, "From basics to combat, he surpasses everyone we have seen until now." Enough with the farce. The executive steps in with a smile, her commanding presence instantly taking control. "Let's talk business." Ignoring the surprise around her, she issues a direct order to Aijin. "Since basic training is over, let's move straight to a real combat mission. You're coming with me." This sudden decision shocks everyone. No one expected a high schooler to be entrusted with such responsibility immediately. Meanwhile, the executives in the monitoring room stare at the screen, shocked that the boy codenamed Jaein has been hiding right beside Yuna all along. "We investigated, but seeing it with my own eyes is chilling." Looking at the file, they cannot reconcile the legendary mercenary demon with this child. "It's like looking at a different person." With awe for his terrifying record, the scene shifts to the men's locker room door, where a new identity is about to emerge. When he reappears, Aijin is dressed in a sharp suit. Adjusting his cuffs, the killing intent in his eyes recedes into a bottomless professionalism and calm. Meanwhile at home, under warm yellow lights, Grandpa worries about his grandson coming home late, unaware of the dangerous world he has stepped into. "It's fine, Grandpa." Da-Yun smiles gently, but her eyes hold a sly trust if anyone actually messes with her brother, they're the ones in trouble. Back at the training hall, the defeated elite team kneels on the floor, the air thick with intense shame and frustration. The hellish training continues as the instructor's roar explodes like thunder, prepared to train until the next life. Trainees kneel trembling before the red curtain, fear penetrating their very bones, every second a brutal torture of their will. Cutting back to reality, the atmosphere in the luxury control room shifts. With a few crisp beeps, a blond man enters, hands in pockets, radiating a silent, suffocating pressure that thins the very air. The click of dress shoes breaks the silence as Yuna stands confidently beside the executive. Opposite them, the bruised SW security team glares with a mix of anger and shame, the scent of conflict igniting instantly. Night falls over the illuminated SW Group building. The group strides through the corridor, the air thick with impatience, as if a purge operation against someone has already begun. A luxury car pulls up, flanked by 3 black-clad bodyguards. Yuna steps out elegantly, her heels clicking, her cold charisma instantly dominating the tense standoff, outshining the night itself. The blonde man stares, like a hawk at the car interior. Within that confined space, another pair of sharp eyes flashes in the shadows, seemingly churning with distant, unwanted memories. You stay back. The blonde man's order is unquestionable. As the window rolls up, Yuna sits quietly in the back, her maturity and indifference beyond her years making the air inside even heavier. The convoy speeds through flashing police lights, the atmosphere oppressively heavy. Yuna stares coldly ahead, while Aijin tenses up beside her, fingertips grazing the Dore warrior's instinct facing potential threats. Aijin watches the night city blur by, mind racing. I have 2, 3 behind. Just as he calculates lethal odds, an abrupt want to be an idol freezes him in place, doubting his own ears. We're going to an SW Entertainment subsidiary, Yuna explains, but Aijin replies coldly, no interest. A smirk touches her lips as she teases, what a waste. Then how about bodyguard work? Twilight streams across their faces, slightly loosening the tension with the banter. Yuna's smile deepens at Aijin's sharp reasoning. It seems you really do have a talent for this. Easily taking down 2 agents isn't normal skill. Facing skepticism, Aijin lies without flinching. They let their guard down. They went easy because I'm just a student. I got lucky. If it were a real life or death fight, it wouldn't have ended like that. The bodyguard is secretly horrified, not buying it. Yuna stares thoughtfully at Aijin, trying to peer into the abyss hidden behind this ordinary-looking boy. Meanwhile, in the SW Group skyscraper, the order to assess the situation has been given. A capable woman sits at her computer, silent data streams weaving a surveillance web where nothing can hide. In the hallway, 2 agents review the encounter. He didn't move a millimeter for an hour. This abnormal composure chills them, prompting the question, where exactly did you train? Facing the aggressive interrogation, Aijin's eyes remain clear as he gives that absurd yet firm answer. I learned it all in the neighborhood where I grew up. The air instantly freezes, suffocating. Neighborhood? He doesn't look like the joking type. The agent stares at Aijin's cold back, doubt clouding his mind. Aijin's gaze darkens, his thoughts pulled back to that bloody neighborhood. The floodgates of memory burst open. In a rainy, pitch-black night, explosions flash as young Aijin moves like a demon through a hail of bullets, every strike accompanied by the sound of shattering bones, a duel of life and death. This is a world without mercy. A comrade hangs upside down while bodies litter the ground. Aijin stands in the rain clutching a bloodied staff, a hellish battlefield beneath his feet, surrounded only by the sound of rain and death. The battle is over, leaving only endless void. The blood-soaked boy kneels in the mud, hands clenched tight. Those eyes, filled with despair, numbness, and killing intent, are the truth behind his so-called neighborhood training. Neon lights blur past the rainy window, casting a tense silence inside the car. Yuna breaks the quiet with a tentative question, but Aijin responds with professional brevity, his gaze never leaving the streets. Yuna's sharp gaze lingers on Aijin. Her gut tells her this composure isn't that of a rookie. Aijin lowers his eyes, calmly denying her suspicion, while his unnatural stillness sends a wave of unease to the driver up front. The driver marvels at Aijin's statue-like discipline, but before the thought settles, a sudden fireball tears through the night sky behind them, the deafening explosion shattering the calm instantly. Aijin's pupils constrict instantly, a flash of killing intent in his eyes. The car accelerates violently over the wet pavement, desperate to outrun the ominous red lights and danger closing in from behind. Panic consumes the driver as he screams into the stormy night, wrestling with the steering wheel. Meanwhile, the roar of pursuing engines and angry shouts weave together. The shadow of death is imminent. There is no escape. A massive impact thunders through the night as the car crumples amidst flying sparks and debris. The world seems to shudder in a destructive convulsion. Thick smoke rises from the twisted wreckage. Amidst the chaotic aftermath, 3 men in black suits swiftly exit the trailing vehicle. Their movements are sharp and cold, as they close in clearly premeditated. Inside the mangled cabin, airbags deploy amidst the chaos. Fighting through searing pain, the driver screams into the suffocating smoke, desperately turning back to check on Yuna's safety. There is no devastating injury. Amidst the ruin, Aijin has already thrown himself forward, his broad shoulders shielding Yuna tightly, absorbing every shard of glass and force of impact. Yuna looks up, still shaken, at the bodyguard hovering inches away. Witnessing this, the driver is struck with disbelief in that split second between life and death. This kid executed a perfect defense? Wind and rain lash against the broken windows. The danger isn't over. As the driver leans in anxiously, Yuna trembles while adjusting her clothes, her gaze glued to Aijin as she whispers that she's fine. The men in suits outside quickly take control, masking the scene as a drunk driving accident. They calmly coordinate rescue and investigation, their tone carrying a chilling professionalism and ease. Even though they seem to be helping, the driver's nerves remain taut as he urgently demands a hospital trip. Yuna finally snaps out of her shock, seemingly sensing something unusual about Aijin. "Are you okay?" Yuna looks at Aijin with concern, but he coldly advises her to get checked out. His bottomless eyes are already calculating threats far more urgent than physical pain. As the car settles, Aijin suddenly turns, sternly reminding Yuna to wear a seatbelt even in the back. This abrupt, somewhat clumsy display of care leaves Yuna stunned, a flush of embarrassment rising on her cheeks. The scene shifts to a sunny morning, the cozy kitchen filled with the aroma of food. Da-yoon, in a cute apron, hums while packing lunch boxes, a healing contrast to the bloodshed of the previous night. Aijin enters the kitchen, his gaze softening instantly upon seeing his busy sister. Learning it's lunch for Grandpa, he volunteers to deliver it, embracing the ordinary daily life he so desperately wants to protect. The egg rolls sizzle in the pan, as if accompanying their family bond. Aijin smiles and decides to tag along, surprising Da-yoon, her brother's initiative, making the house feel even more like a home. In this moment, he is not a reaper of the battlefield, but an ordinary grandson. The city bustle continues, but beneath the towering skyscrapers, a new chapter quietly unfolds in the peaceful sunlight. Meanwhile, at the security booth, a colleague teases the beaming grandpa. Ever since his grandson returned, the old man hasn't stopped smiling. The happiness of a reunited family is visible to everyone. Under the bright afternoon sun, Grandpa chats with a colleague, clutching rice balls gifted by a resident. Though the work is menial, a content smile graces his weathered face at the thought of saving on lunch. Night falls, and in the shadows of the city, Grandpa digs through the recycling bin alone. In this silence, the contrast strikes hard. At the dinner table, he hides his toil and loneliness to protect the children's smiles. The peaceful cleaning is shattered by a piercing horn. A yellow taxi halts aggressively. The window rolls down, and a tattooed man's roar instantly tears through the street's tranquility, drawing startled gazes. The door flies open, and the tattooed man, face flushed with rage and cups in hand, charges out like a beast. His frantic cursing and violent aura leave the driver trembling inside, too terrified to breathe. Without warning, the man storms over and smashes the cups onto the ground. With a sharp crack, liquid splatters, a blatant trampling of an old man's dignity rather than just littering. Faced with this sudden malice, Grandpa freezes, his eyes filled with shock and helplessness. The thug merely looks down coldly, pointing at the mess and ordering contemptuously, "Hey, clean this up too." The humiliation escalates. A woman in the car giggles, handing over a trash bag, which the thug carelessly tosses at Grandpa's feet. The old man stands rigid, back slightly bent, his silence heartbreaking. Grandpa silently bends down, his rough hands trembling as they reach for the trash bag. Just at this moment of crushed dignity, a clear, familiar voice pierces the heavy air. "Grandpa." Grandpa spins around, frantically trying to hide the mess behind him. Da-yoon and Aijin approach, bathed in sunlight. Their youthful smiles form a cruel contrast to the cold reality of the moment. "We brought you lunch," the kids beam, completely unaware. Grandpa quickly adjusts his expression, swallowing his grievance and putting on his usual kindly face. "Oh, I told you not to bother." Seeing the bottle in Grandpa's hand, Dayu rolls up her sleeves to help. "Let me give you a hand." Grandpa steps back, gently stopping her, terrified that her clean hands might be tainted by his dust and indignity. "Go wait over there. Grandpa will wash up and come," he urges them lightly. Aijin stands silently. His sharp eyes seem to catch Grandpa's fleeting panic, but he chooses a protective silence. Meanwhile, on a nearby corner, sharp eyes watch the scene unfold. Cha Dusik, fresh out of the hospital, pauses as he unexpectedly stumbles upon this heartwarming family moment. Rubbing his sore neck, Dusik was complaining about the hospital, but his gaze deepens the instant it sweeps over the apartment building. Fate plays tricks. This is the home of that monster. His subordinate's eyes widen as he points at the old man throwing trash. "Boss! That old man, isn't he the security guard we saw at Aijin's house?" Memory fragments instantly click together. Dusik's gaze shifts to the beaming girl, then to the usually expressionless boy. So, this is the reason a battlefield demon willingly became mortal family. The gangster boss freezes. Yu Aijin, cold-blooded in battle, now wears a gentle smile Dusik has never seen. He mutters in disbelief, "That guy can actually smile?" "Should we go say hi?" the subordinate asks. Dusik shakes his head and turns away, unwilling to let their gritty presence disturb such rare peace and normalcy. "Don't ruin the mood. Let's go!" In the sunset gazebo, the trio shares lunch, laughter dispelling the earlier gloom. In the distance, the gangsters quietly fade away. Sometimes, protection means simply not disturbing the peace. At the crossroads, Grandpa waves goodbye, his gaze lingering on the children's retreating figures. The sunset elongates a shadow. Despite the grievance, seeing their smiles makes the world worth treating with tenderness. Under the gentle night sky, Grandpa walks home with a shopping bag, happily thinking about buying snacks for the kids along the way. His warm thoughts are interrupted by a yellow sports car blocking the road. With good intentions, Grandpa politely asks them to move. Instead of understanding, he receives insults. The tattooed man dismisses the elder with arrogance and disdain, sparking instant tension. Grandpa stands his ground with dignity, trying to reason, but the man escalates, threatening the elder to take responsibility for any scratches. Even the woman joins in with mockery, trampling on his dignity. Facing such shameless insults, Grandpa lowers his head in helpless silence. Suddenly, a massive hand crushes the thug's head. A middle-aged man in a suit descends, like an avenging fury, instantly pinning the aggressor to the ground. "You scumbag." Under that terrifying pressure, the once arrogant thug is now wide-eyed with bone-chilling fear. A murderous aura descends like a storm. The man coldly warns them never to offend the elder again, searing fear into their hearts. The sports car flees in panic. Watching the taillights fade, the man adjusts his suit, smiling confidently after protecting the elder. As the crisis averts, Grandpa is still shaken. He then realizes the man who helped him is the SW Group security chief he met before. Memory strikes, and Grandpa realizes who he is. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, a neon-lit bar buzzes with hidden tension. Inside a dim booth, two men pour drinks while discussing the incident. Turns out, more than one force has been watching over Grandpa's family. The conversation inevitably turns to that teenager in the hoodie, the seemingly ordinary boy whose monstrous power terrifies both the law and the underworld. The phone vibrates abruptly. The caller ID Grandpa acts like an alarm, instantly tensing up even those hardened by the cruel underworld. Intel is laid out on the table. All clues point to the secret hidden within that ordinary apartment, and the line that must never be crossed. The tension hits a breaking point, only to be shattered by a sudden misunderstanding. It was a false alarm, turning the standoff into something almost comical. In the spacious, bright office, the executive looks serious, opening with a direct question to the security chief about the boy who just finished special training. She isn't concerned with the training results, but the medical report. Hearing only minor scratches only deepens the suspicion in her eyes. Recalling the terrifying image of the boy smashing glass with bare hands, she closes the file and coldly orders, "Check every single detail, no matter how minor." In the dim room, cold logic prevails. It's less about the child's safety and more about managing the fallout of public opinion, every word dripping with calculated realism. Back at school, Ko Suk-ju leans against the lockers. Despite his casual stance, his gaze is locked tight on Yoo Ijin, a look of intense scrutiny. Suk-ju looks green, utterly drained by the overwhelming gap in power. What was just a routine drill for Ijin felt like hell on earth for him. The jokes fade, replaced by a sudden chill. Suk-ju drops the act. In this moment, he's not just a classmate, but once again bearing the heavy weight of a bodyguard. Not for money, but for redemption. Memories flood back. The kidnapping that happened right before his eyes remains a thorn in his heart. Having tasted failure, he is even more shocked by Ijin's skills. Those professional tactics belong to no ordinary high schooler, and suspicion takes root. "Learned it in my old neighborhood." The clumsy lie stands like a wall. A flicker of hurt crosses Suk-ju's eyes. The dismissal stings more than the secrecy. The awkward standoff is broken as Yuna appears. The serious Suk-ju instantly flusters, looking like a boy caught with a secret. Facing Yuna's confusion, Suk-ju tries to regain his composure. He masks the impending mission with a casual tone, though his eyes remain wary. Twilight falls, turning the walk home into a covert escort mission. Though still in uniform, the tension with the suited bodyguard hangs heavy in the air. On one side, the security team monitors with grim intensity. On the other, Yuna beams over her food. Her moment of peace is bought by those lurking in the shadows. The rain outside seems to trigger a buried memory within Ijin, flashes of smoke and fire. The laughter of friends pulls him forcefully back to the warmth of the table. Bodyguards shouldn't sit with their charges. Yuna disregards the rules. Her insistence on treating them as friends leaves Suk-ju exasperated yet touched. Watching Yuna eat, Suk-ju realizes her intent. She chose a cheap convenience store solely to protect Ijin's pride, ensuring he wouldn't feel burdened. Yuna cautiously mentions her nasty older sister, worried Ijin was mistreated. In her eyes, her family members are always looking down on others. "It was fine," Ijin replies flatly. Contrary to Yuna's worry, he saw right through the woman's smiling mask to the ruthless arrogance beneath. "Just like before." Yuna's casual remark, paired with her warm smile, instantly overlaps time and space. Ijin's gaze freezes. It's the key unlocking the past. The floodgates of memory burst open. The bright store vanishes, replaced by a dark jungle. There, covered in blood and gasping for air, is Yuna's father. "Leave me, go!" The man makes his choice in the face of despair. Even with his last breath, he wishes for the young mercenary before him to survive. Facing death, there is no fear on the man's face, only gratitude for the one who came alone to save him. In this cruel battlefield, it is the last, heaviest glimmer of humanity. Amidst the ruins of war, heavy boots crush the ground, echoing a grim fate. The dying soldier's consciousness fades, clinging to one final wish to go home and see his daughter's face. A young mercenary stands coldly over the wounded man, his voice like steel. "People in worse shape die here all the time, but you are still alive. If you want to live, stand up. Survive, and go see your daughter." The words act as a lifeline, refocusing the dying man's gaze. Trembling, he asks, "Can we talk? Just the two of us?" Back in the present, Yuna blushes nervously, shocked to be alone with Ijin. Sensing the mood, Suk-ju tactfully excuses himself to get some fresh air. The air turns heavy as they sit alone at the table. Fidgeting nervously, Yuna breaks the silence. "So suddenly, what did you want to talk about?" Yuna's pupils dilate as Ijin speaks her father's name. Shock and confusion overwhelm her. "How do you know? What kind of person was he?" Aijin looks at her with a complex expression, hiding unhealed scars in his eyes. Yuna's breathing quickens, eyes reddening, sensing the imminent truth. Tears welling up, Yuna recalls her father. The man who was always absent, who chose work over his sick daughter, even until his dying breath. I never saw him again until the news of his death. Yuna's voice trembles, years of resentment erupting. Honestly, I resent him. Flashback to the ruins under the sunset. The rescued father looks at a construction site, eyes deep with emotion. If you hadn't saved me, I never would have said this. Do you still think this job is meaningless? Amidst the chaos, the father gently comforts a refugee orphan. He confesses that only by protecting these children, like a father, can he face his own daughter again. Sunset reflects in his tearful eyes of regret. Why didn't I realize sooner that family is more important than work? He chokes up, thinking of Yuna far away. Aijin looks at the confused Yuna, gently but firmly correcting her memory. He said he worked until the very end, just so he could come back to see you. Shin Yuna, this is what your father entrusted to me. Aijin looks into her tearful eyes. He wanted to see your face before he died, and his biggest regret was failing to do so. It was a final request at death's door. The bloodied father refused Aijin's comfort, using his last strength to turn his longing into a command. This is a request. Even as life faded, his obsession burned bright. Even if I survive, you must tell her. A father's love transcending life and death, finally bridging the gap of time. Yuna covers her mouth in shock, tears breaking the dam. Aijin's words shatter her resentment, the image of the cold father crumbling instantly. That is everything I can tell you. Aijin finishes, silently watching Yuna sob uncontrollably. The belated I love you has finally reached the one who needed to hear it most. Watching Yuna cry, clarity dawns on Aijin. He didn't understand the weight of that request back then, but seeing her tears now, he finally understands. The request wasn't just for Yuna, but for Aijin too. The father wanted the boy mercenary to leave that hell and return to the normal world. He included Aijin among the children he wanted to save. The sudden doorbell shatters the silence, and Aijin instinctively tenses up, his gaze turning cold. Outside, a man in a suit adjusts his cuffs, wearing a confident smile, as if anticipating the reunion. The door opens, revealing the battlefield commander standing awkwardly in the kitchen. Faced with the family's curiosity, the man usually barking orders looks slightly embarrassed, filling the air with a mix of tension and anticipation. It turns out he returned with Aijin, but held back to respect their reunion. Hearing this, the grandfather's surprise turns into gratitude, touched that this unseen benefactor had been silently watching over them. Misunderstandings cleared. Realizing this man brought Aijin home, the grandfather's emotions burst forth. Tears streaming, he bows trembling, every word weighted with infinite relief for his grandson's return. Watching the old man's sincere tears, Aijin remains silent, warmth swelling in his chest. Beside him, Dayun covers her mouth in surprise, finally touching a corner of the secret past connecting Aijin to this guest. Dayun suddenly points out the soldier connection, shifting the atmosphere. Faced with the grandfather's question of how they met, the battle-hardened veteran panics, sweating profusely, terrified of shattering Aijin's peaceful life. Thinking on his feet, he vividly fabricates a lie about getting lost abroad and being saved by Aijin. This humorous self-deprecation amuses the grandfather, diffusing the crisis into laughter and leading to a warm lunch invitation. Tension at the table dissipates. The lieutenant forks a piece of fruit, turning his gaze to the quiet girl with curiosity and friendliness, acknowledging the person Aijin swore to protect. He confidently tries to play the big brother, asking to be called Appa. However, Dayun's shocked expression and the glaring age gap act like a bucket of cold water, making this forced intimacy both awkward and hilarious. The confession of being 36-foot contrasts strangely with the table full of hearty homemade Korean food. At this moment, generational gaps and identity barriers melt away in the steam of the delicious meal. Watching the warm family interaction, the lieutenant pauses, spoon in hand. The long-forgotten taste of a home-cooked meal seems to awaken a deep longing for ordinary life, his eyes betraying a hint of hidden loneliness. To mask that moment of sentimentality, he exaggeratedly complains about his own mother's terrible cooking. Ijin eats silently, seeing through the jokes to the lieutenant's clumsy yearning for this ordinary happiness. Hearing the tragic description of bad food, the grandfather looks sympathetic. Sunlight falls on Ijin as he eats. This meal fills not just their stomachs, but silently heals the veterans' parched souls. After the meal, the air outside the convenience store feels fresh and free. Dropping their masks, the lieutenant passes on greetings from old comrades. That bond transcending the battlefield makes Ijin's lips curve upward. Addressing Ijin's confusion, the lieutenant admits the trip is for both business and vacation. He sincerely praises the grandfather's kindness, his eyes telling Ijin, "You made the right choice. This home is worth protecting." "And your sister too." The lieutenant's tone softens when mentioning Diane. Ijin nods gently, a silent understanding between two men, the highest validation of this hard-won peaceful life. Warm moments are always fleeting as the lieutenant rises to leave. Ijin is taken aback by the abrupt farewell, looking at the retreating back with a hint of reluctance, as if the war-torn years are drifting further away. "I have to meet my fiancée." The words drop like a bombshell, leaving Ijin completely floored. The man who called the battlefield home is getting married? This is more unbelievable than him missing a shot in combat. Seeing Ijin's look of utter disbelief, the lieutenant snaps, roaring in rage. It's the humiliation of having his charm questioned by a brother, while Ijin reflexively freezes in terror, as if back to being a recruit. Rage subsiding, he resigns to explaining it's an arranged marriage, perhaps a relief for someone always away. Waving goodbye, he turns with a smile, leaving his back to his reborn brother, looking cool yet somewhat relieved. Footsteps approach, breaking the silence. Ijin turns in surprise as Hamchan drops the playfulness, lowering his voice to reveal the answer to the question that's been hanging between them. Hamchan's gaze is piercing. "Did you understand?" he presses. Ijin crosses his arms, cold sweat forming on his brow, as the weight of the question "What is a family?" hits him harder than any physical blow. Ijin simply replies, "Yeah," a quiet acceptance settling over him. Conversely, Hamchan knits his brows, trapped in a long, struggling silence, unable to find further words. A rare, gentle smile graces Ijin's face. "I think I understand now." The air warms between them. With a quiet farewell, this profound conversation about humanity comes to a close. The scene shifts to sunset, golden hues reflecting off the SW Group building. Inside, Shinjia offers an apologetic smile, elegant yet regretful, acknowledging that her sudden invitation has disrupted the rhythm of the evening. Sitting at the table, Hamchan blushes slightly, frankly admitting he was the one who wanted to see her. Jia gazes tenderly at the man about to deploy, her eyes filled with concern and the bittersweet weight of parting. Against the gentle night backdrop, they tease each other about their busy lives like a normal couple. Hamchan throws his head back in laughter, his genuine joy momentarily dispelling the shadow of their upcoming separation. While Jia muses on fate, Hamchan suddenly becomes agitated. Gripping the table, face flushed, he loudly corrects her on the exact number of their meetings he has cherished and counted every single one. "Engaged for a year, yet barely met." Jia sighs softly, voicing the helplessness of their bond. Hamchan closes his eyes with a bitter chuckle, unable to deny the reality, hiding his guilt behind a laugh. The atmosphere suddenly cools. Jia drops her smile and slides a file across the table. It's Yu Ijin's profile. She wants her fiancé to unravel the mystery behind this boy. Staring at the familiar, cold face in the photo, Hamchan's gaze freezes. His fiancé is asking him to investigate his own brother-in-arms? Fate is playing a ridiculous joke, leaving him torn. Jia sharply points out the forged records and government interference, pressing for answers. However, Hamchan averts his gaze and apologizes in a low voice. He must protect Ijin's secret, even if it means hiding the truth from her. "I can't do this for you." Hamchan's refusal is cold and final, the background burning with tension. Gia freezes, tears welling up, unable to believe her fiancé would reject her so harshly. Gia takes a deep breath, suppressing her grievance, and coldly agrees. Watching her disappointed retreat, Hamchan sweats profusely, knowing he messed up but unable to explain his predicament, tormented by guilt. Hamchan screams internally, "I upset my fiancé just to protect you." But the scene shifts abruptly. Days later, the calm is shattered by a shocked cry. Something has happened to the lieutenant's squad. Bad news comes through the phone, causing Aijen's pupils to constrict. Meanwhile, miles away in the jungle battlefield, panic screams tear through the air as death quietly closes in on the surrounded squad. In the pouring rain, gunfire erupts wildly, illuminating the desperate faces of the soldiers. The enemy's movements are erratic. This is no skirmish, but a carefully orchestrated trap designed to lure them to their deaths. A bloodied figure emerges from the darkness, a sadistic grin widening beneath his goggles. "Great!" he sneers, like a wolf eyeing its prey. "It's time to hunt." "Is the lieutenant in danger?" Aijen's voice is low and suppressed. In the command room, flashing red lights on the screen confirm the worst. They are surrounded by terrorist forces and in imminent peril. The major grips the phone tightly, grimly relaying the rescue plan. He informs Aijen not just out of camaraderie, but with an unspoken understanding, knowing that the sleeping beast is about to wake. Aijen grips the phone, the voice on the other end chilling him to the bone. The major's tone is heavy, a grim warning to prepare for the worst, filling the air with suffocating pressure. The warning follows instantly. "Don't you dare move a muscle." The major's words act as a steel barrier, reminding Aijen that his situation has changed. He is no longer the free mercenary he once was. "Don't forget, you have a family now." The words strike a nerve. Aijen lowers his head, forcing out a "Roger," but his trembling hand betrays the storm of reluctance raging within. Hanging up, his mind drifts, pulling him back to the moment that changed everything. Memories overlap, revealing days of bandages and bright smiles that now feel both distant and vivid. Back in the field hospital, rumors swirled about the amnesiac Korean boy. Amidst the noise, that blond man Lieutenant Kong approached him with a smile as warm as the sun. Once, loneliness drowned him in the dark barracks. Lieutenant Kong didn't force the painful memories, simply resting a soda can on his head. "No rush, just let it happen naturally." In that instant, a name shot through his mind like a jolt of electricity. "You Aijen!" The lieutenant's gaze was intense, seemingly cherishing this reclaimed identity more than Aijen himself. The joy of finding his name is short-lived, cut to a brutal defeat screen. A comical and nostalgic contrast between the warmth of reality and the failure in the game. Teammates' roars fill the internet cafe, blaming Aijen for the loss. This mundane bickering was exactly the ordinary, vibrant life the lieutenant wanted for him. Until that day, the news exploded in the barracks like thunder. "Aijen, we found them! You have a grandfather and a sister!" Amidst the cheers, he stood frozen in disbelief. Teasing and congratulations followed, rough but sincere. Comrades ruffled his hair, joking about school lunches, the only warmth he knew in that living hell. The bubble of memory pops with a gentle voice. Sunset drapes over his shoulders as Dayun calls him back to reality. "Appa, dinner is ready." The peaceful happiness now twists his heart. Inside, steaming food and smiling faces await the life he dreamed of. Yet Aijen stands at the threshold, a heavy burden in his heart making him feel out of place in this warmth. "Why are you standing there like a statue?" Grandpa's joke breaks the silence. Looking at this precious, ordinary happiness, the hesitation in Aijen's eyes deepens as he struggles between duty and protection. He forces a calm expression and sits, listening to Grandpa chat about India's neighbors. The feast before him tastes like nothing as his mind drifts to the distant battlefield. Grandpa boasts proudly about the lunch his grandkids brought, Dayun chiming in with a laugh. This pure familial love is exactly what Lieutenant Kong fought to protect, yet now it feels like chains binding Aijen. Amidst the laughter, Grandpa keenly senses his grandson's unease. Ijin lowers his eyes, cheeks slightly flushed, and finally gathers the courage to seek an answer from this wise man. What do you think about repaying someone who helped you? The question is sudden and heavy, freezing the air as Grandpa puts down his spoon, his expression turning serious. Grandpa pauses, his gaze turning deep and kind. Kindness given without expecting anything in return is immeasurable. It is the greatest favor in the world. The words shine like a light into Ijin's confused heart. In that case, you must repay it, at least within your limits. These words strike like lightning, shattering the chains binding Ijin's heart. His gaze turns firm and sharp once more. Seeing his grandfather fret over his clumsy advice, Ijin simply offers a gentle smile, softly voicing the happiness of this reclaimed family life. The simple confession strikes a chord. Tears well up in the old man's eyes as deep relief and joy replace his worry. Turning to Dayun, Ijin shares the same raw sentiment, leaving his sister wide-eyed and stunned by his sudden emotional openness. While Dayun wrestles with shy confusion, Ijin's demeanor shifts instantly. He makes a call, his voice turning cold and decisive. I'm coming. Prepare some gear for me. As the request leaves his lips, the gentle brother vanishes, replaced by a soldier with a darkened, brooding gaze. The scene cuts violently to a crimson forest, where Lieutenant Kang's squad gasps for air, every breath a struggle against exhaustion and freezing cold. In the treacherous jungle, the exhausted unit drags their wounded forward, while the rearguard scans the shadows, checking how close death follows. Facing reports of dwindling supplies, a bloodied Kong grits his teeth, forcing his men to focus on their only hope. We must reach the rescue zone. But in the shadows, the trap is set. Enemies watch from the ridges, smirking as they herd their prey into a tightening encirclement. These aren't simple prey. The commander muses, his brutality punctuated by a blade piercing a soldier's gut, spilling fresh blood. Far away, a splitting headache strikes Ijin like a lightning bolt, the bloody nightmares of his past clawing their way back to the surface. As the transport plane cuts through burning clouds, Ijin realizes that just when he thinks he's forgotten, the pain always returns. The digital map flickers with a familiar, curse-named Ryan, the killing field where he once fought countless battles. Back in the Situation Room, intelligence officers brief the executives. Resources are staged for the covert operation to rescue the stranded squad. Are you really going? Even the president hesitates, but Ijin meets his gaze with a resolve that far exceeds his years. Yes. With that single word, the cabin lights turn red. 1 minute remains before the drop, and the gates of hell are about to open. Weapon chambered, tactical visor glowing red. The student is gone. The legendary mercenary 001 has returned, radiating lethal intent. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the school bathes in peaceful sunlight, a cruel and ironic contrast to the battlefield. Yuna and Sukju stare at the empty seat, checking unread messages with growing anxiety, unaware of the deadly peril their friend has walked into. The cold wind howls as a combat boot crushes spent shell casings. Deep in the forest of death, a masked ghost watches silently. The hunt begins. The dark forest gapes like a maw. A masked figure stalks through mud slick with blood and casings, every step radiating a predator's cold intent as he hunts. Sharp eyes scan the tracks. He calculates the escape route instantly. Since the prey isn't here, they must be scrambling in desperation toward the third camp. Silence is torn apart. Gunfire weaves madly through the trees, explosions puncture the darkness, and the rhythm of death abruptly begins to play. Rage fills his bloodshot eyes. The blond soldier roars, firing into the hail of bullets, his muzzle flash illuminating a face of desperate defiance. RPG. The scope captures the deadly silhouette. Cold sweat drenches his back as the shadow of death locks onto them with the incoming warhead. A deafening roar. A massive fireball swallows the view, shockwaves blasting debris everywhere. Soldiers grit their teeth, clinging to life in the sudden inferno. Smoke lingers over the carnage. The assault is repelled, but the survivor's eyes hold only grim weight. This brief respite tastes of blood and ash. Ammo is low. The heavy reality crushes them. There is no victory here, only exhausted bodies dragging themselves toward their only hope, the third camp. With wounded and civilians, it's a race against the Reaper. For the next 3 hours, every second is devoured by fear and exhaustion, suffocating them. This isn't just a pursuit, it's a cruel game. The enemy strikes like a relentless wolf pack, tearing at them wave after wave to break their spirits. Herded from camp to camp, a net tightens around them. The enemy knows their route perfectly, driving them like sheep step by step into a dead end. I will get these people back, no matter what. He clenches his fist under the blood-red sky, swearing a solemn oath to his comrades and life itself. Meanwhile, in a dim command room, fury erupts. How many more of my men must die? But the only response is the commander's chilling, heartless sneer. The man called Mad Dog lifts his eye patch, revealing a grotesque scar. His eyes hold utter disregard for life, freezing the air with suffocating menace. You're useless anyway. The cold words strike like a death sentence. In this power play, a pawn without value is destined to be ruthlessly discarded. A gunshot cracks without hesitation. Blood sprays as shock freezes on the twisted face. Here, betrayal and murder are just part of the routine. Stepping over the warm corpse, he glares at the kneeling prisoners like cattle awaiting slaughter. A bloodier purge is about to begin. Useless, dispose of this trash. He licks his lips, issuing the final hunting order. As for the ones running, hunt them all down. No survivors. Unaware of the massacre behind them, the squad gasps for air in the dark. 500 meters left. Lungs burning, they chase their last hope without stopping. Careful, they know this place. As they near the goal, the chill of being watched intensifies, as if deadly muzzles hide behind every tree in the gloom. Bathed in dim red light, the commander wears a twisted smile, savoring the despair of prey who foolishly believe they have escaped the predator's favorite moment. Tell the troops the slaughter begins. The order is barely given when a piercing alarm shatters the silence of the night, the prelude to a deadly backlash. The scene before them dilates their pupils in shock. The hunting ground has become a slaughterhouse, littered with the broken bodies of their own men in chilling silence. Contact lost with Alpha Team. As the grim news arrives through the rainy night, the commander slams the table in fury, his roar of disbelief echoing through the chaotic command center. Consumed by rage, the commander issues a lethal order. Leave no survivors. He prepares to intervene personally, his eyes burning with a ruthless resolve to crush everything. Panic floods the radio from Delta Team. We are engaging an unknown target. They just appeared out of thin air. Fear spreads through the transmission. Can't even identify. A gunshot cuts the transmission dead. The commander freezes, a terrifying realization sending chills down his spine. Could it be him? A surviving soldier screams in despair. We were the prey all along? Amidst the explosions, the roles of hunter and hunted are violently reversed, leaving only endless terror. Against a backdrop of raging flames, the figure in the dog-toothed mask stands like a demon from hell, eyes burning with suffocating killing intent. The Reaper has arrived. Cannons roar as the thunder of tanks and machine guns weaves a symphony of death, turning the frozen snowy battlefield into scorched earth. I will hold them off for 30 minutes until they escape. The lone warrior makes a vow on the trembling ground, his silhouette resolute and tragic. Amidst the hail of bullets, he moves like a phantom, engaging an entire army single-handedly as enemies fall with every pull of the trigger. The night provides the perfect cover. Behind the scope, his gaze is ice-cold, a muffled shot rings out, and a distant enemy drops instantly. Through the green hue of night vision, death arrives with precision. Blood sprays in the darkness. No one escapes the Reaper's call. The enemy's curses are cut short as bullets pierce their skulls. The muffled gunshots echo through the canyon, declaring the brutality of this perfect ambush. Perched on high ground, the sniper smirks coldly. Muzzle flashes flicker against the cliff face, mocking the enemy's helplessness and panic. In this terrain, No one can predict my position. He moves rapidly through the smoke, turning the chaotic battlefield into his personal hunting ground. Strike and vanish. He shifts position within the jungle shadows, ready to launch another harvest of souls from an unexpected angle, leaving the enemy defenseless. The retreating squad halts in confusion. We just passed this area. The fierce gunfire behind them reveals the truth: someone is clearing their pursuers for them. Though filled with doubt, the lieutenant orders them to hold position. Exhausted soldiers catch their breath in the gloomy forest, unaware of the true identity of their guardian in the dark. The silent night is instantly torn apart as fire consumes everything. Comrades fall, and desperate screams are drowned out by the relentless roar of explosions. Bullets rain down, pitting them to the ground. Amidst the smoke, survivors frantically pull triggers, trying to tear a breach in the closing circle of death. The enemy senses their weakness, intensifying the assault. In this suffocating net of fire, every second of resistance burns through the countdown of their lives. Meanwhile, in the dark depths of the swamp, a lone figure approaches silently. Creeping like a ghost, he coldly calculates the number of his prey. The grass rustles. The enemy search party is perilously close. The boy's eyes glint coldly in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Muffled shots ring out, and blood sprays violently into the night. With lethal efficiency, the lurker harvests lives instantly, leaving no time for screams. Threats neutralized, but his advantage is gone. Glancing at the countdown, his eyes show no emotion, only absolute focus on the mission. On the ridge, the surviving squad waits anxiously for rescue. The sunset stains the sky red, and the voice on the radio is their only lifeline. Stay focused. Despite exhaustion, they stare ahead, daring not to relax, fearing this might be the final calm before the end. The gunfire has stopped, leaving a terrifying silence. This unnatural quiet sends chills down their spines. Is the enemy preparing a worse attack? Suddenly, a familiar codename crackles over the radio dash. Mercenary J.I.N. The static seems to pierce their ears, leaving them stunned in disbelief. It was him? The ghost protecting their flanks and clearing the path from the shadows was the very boy who should have been far from the battlefield. Rapid footsteps echo on the forest path. The setting sun elongates the running figure as he races against time to reach his comrades. The bushes rustle, and weapons instantly lock on. Just as fingers tighten on triggers, the image in the scope causes pupils to constrict in shock. Emerging from the shadows is a figure with hands raised high. Even at a distance, the familiar silhouette makes everyone's heart skip a beat. It's really him. How is this possible? Staring at the young, smoke-stained face, the comrades are speechless, unable to comprehend how he crossed the blockade alone. Hearts pound violently, a mix of fear and adrenaline. The boy leans against the cover. Despite his exhaustion, his eyes remain clear and determined. The roar of rescue helicopters finally pierces the sky, overlooking a field strewn with bodies. The blood-red sunset bears witness to the end of this brutal breakout. Are you insane? The officer lunges forward, grabbing the boy by the collar. Not out of blame, but out of the overwhelming worry and fury of barely surviving. Facing the officer's roar, the boy simply replies, I know this area better than you. This calm statement shatters all blame, leaving only the bond of life and death. Amidst the ruins of a battlefield, a heated argument resurrects buried memories. The hooded figure, facing his former comrade's interrogation, carries the heavy burden of responsibility in his eyes. Tension freezes the air as they stand off in the bloody twilight. One burns with rage, trying to see through the disguise, while the other's gaze remains piercing, reflecting the exhaustion and resolve of a survivor. Brat from hell. Vicious curses spill from a twisted, angry face. Yet, those cold eyes show no wavering, only the calculated calm of a predator locking onto its prey. A deafening roar tears through the sky as a massive fireball engulfs the helicopter. Before this devastating power, the squad on the ground can only watch as everything turns to ash, a brutal footnote of war. The report is chilling. Alpha Team annihilated, Delta Team ambushed. The commander stands amidst the corpse-strewn forest, struggling to comprehend the catastrophic loss, as the shadow of death cloaks the jungle. And the enemy? The commander demands in fury. The answer sends a chill down his spine. They were few, yet they harvested lives like ghosts, leaving no trace of their identity. Suffocated by red-tinted memories, the commander sinks into deep self-doubt. The trap was supposed to be flawless, but as he replays the massacre, a terrifying realization begins to take shape. That tactical signature belongs to only one man. Fear dilates his pupils as he struggles to deny the impossible conclusion, yet the Reaper's name whispers in the dark, Agent 001. Investigate as if he is alive. Fury erupts as the commander screams the order. The ghost that should have been dead has returned as a tangible nightmare, looming over them once again. The scene shifts to the modern city, where the SW Group Tower stands tall at dusk. Beneath the calm exterior, uniformed security teams assemble, filling the air with a disciplined tension. Inside the spacious training hall, Yuna watches quietly from above. Security drills are underway below, but her amused gaze suggests she is anticipating the arrival of someone special. Blue lights flare as the training facility activates. This is no ordinary fitness test, but a combat simulation, a proving ground where only the truly strong remain standing. Blades drawn. In a flash, two figures collide violently. The dagger in Yu Aijin's hand becomes a streak of light. Against the trained bodyguards, his movements are breathtakingly fast. They break apart, the standoff dripping with lethal intent. The bodyguards assume standard combat stances, but the slender student emits the chilling aura of a veteran who has seen hell. In an instant, the outcome is decided. Red shockwaves erupt across the hall, a display of pure, overwhelming power and speed. Every clash highlights the terrifying gap in skill. What a monster! Watching the unstoppable blur in the arena, the spectators are dumbfounded. This level of combat power completely shatters their perception of a high school student. Even Yuna can't hide her admiration. The duel ends, and as Yu Aijin sheathes his edge, he leaves the elite bodyguards questioning their own existence. This is the absolute dominance of the mercenary. As training ends, bodyguards gasp for air, some collapsing in exhaustion. In contrast, Yu Aijin stands with steady breath, barely sweating, as if the intense battle was merely a warm-up. But as he steps into the shadows of the locker room, the steely facade cracks. Only in this solitary corner does he dare to clutch his wound, revealing a glimpse of the suppressed pain. As Aijin adjusts his tie, blood stains the pristine white shirt. The shocking wound freezes the bodyguard in his tracks, his eyes wide with disbelief. "It's nothing," Aijin dismisses calmly, but the bodyguard's mind races in shock. To display such dominance while heavily wounded, what kind of monster is this boy? Staring at Aijin, the bodyguard feels a crushing sense of inadequacy. Beside this predator, his own strength feels like a tiny fish trembling in the shadow of a massive shark. In the dim locker room corridor, the bodyguard tries to rationalize his fear. From Yuna's rescue to the duel, Aijin's every move screams of hellish discipline, not just talent. "I was called a genius, but facing you feels like climbing Everest without gear." The bodyguard chuckles bitterly, frustrated yet retaining a flicker of competitive fire. Aijin pauses, his silhouette looking solitary. He glances back at the peer so desperate to beat him, offering a rare glimpse of empathy. "I understand how you feel, because we're the same age." The conversation shifts to legacy. The bodyguard quietly admits that as the descendant of a trusted retainer, his fate was sealed at birth to be Yuna's shield. "I was raised to protect her," the bodyguard says, voice heavy with destiny. Aijin listens, eyes shifting, for he never learned to be a bodyguard, only how to kill and survive. "Everyone has their own specialties." Leaving these words, Aijin walks towards the exit. They part ways, different in path, but connected by a newfound mutual respect. "But I still plan not to lose to you." The declaration makes Aijin pause. The corridor echoes with youthful stubbornness, a pure, bloodless rivalry of the peaceful world. Outside the training ground, Yuna waits against the wall. Arms crossed, she wears a knowing smile. Good job today. Dodging Yuna's questions about missing school, Aijin averts his gaze, touching his cheek to hide his fatigue. Something's happened, he murmurs, shielding her from his dark reality. Twilight bathes the corridor as the three fall into a brief silence. Just as the air grows heavy, the vibration in Aijin's pocket breaks the stillness. The screen flashes. Lieutenant Kong Hamchan. The moment he answers, the voice on the other end brings salvation. Aijin, Kwangsik surgery was a success. Tension evaporates, replaced by a glow of relief in Aijin's eyes. On the line, his former commander sits in the hospital room, voice trembling. Any later, and he'd be gone. You saved him. The background noise of comrades clamoring to buy dinner fills the line with life. Hearing the familiar chaos, Aijin's lips curl upward. For a moment, the battlefield feels worlds away. However, Aijin's expression suddenly hardens. Gripping the phone, he makes a solemn request to his former commander. Lieutenant, don't go back to the battlefield. You have a family now, don't you? Aijin's voice is deep and sincere. Thanks to you, I found my family again. The words hit the man on the other end like a heavy blow. In the hospital room, the hardened soldier breaks down before such profound affection. Clutching his head, tears well up, a mix of gratitude and guilt for being protected by his subordinate. See you next time. Hanging up, Aijin stands alone in the sunset. Bathed in the golden warmth, the former mercenary finally fully embraces his ordinary, precious happiness. Under the warm glow of the sunset, Aijin takes a call with a serious expression, while Yuna peeks from behind, her eyes wide with curiosity. Aijin explains he's heading to a PC cafe, a reply so unexpected that Yuna's eyes widen in shock, as if hearing something impossible. I'm coming too. Yuna shouts excitedly, eyes sparkling. Aijin stays silent, resigned to letting her tag along. They arrive at the PC club. Aijin pauses, his calm demeanor masking a faint sense that something is wrong. The moment they step inside, the scene is suffocating, wreckage everywhere, chairs overturned. A worker sweeps the debris as Yuna gasps in horror. Students in your uniform were attacked. The worker's trembling words strike like lightning. Aijin instantly realizes his friends are in danger. Without hesitation, Aijin sprints into the night. His eyes shift from calm to desperate urgency as he races against time. Meanwhile, in a dim alley, his friends run in desperation, chased by vicious thugs whose roars echo through the night. The pursuers are equally terrified, as if failing to catch them before Aijin arrives would mean a fate worse than death. Don't tell Aijin. Just run. Even surrounded, their only thought is not to burden their friend, dragging each other through the despair. Hiding in a dark corner, hearts pounding. Suddenly, a phone vibrates in a pocket, bzzz, deafening in the silence. The screen lights up with Yu Aijin. The call that should have been a lifeline has now become a death signal revealing their location. Location exposed. With nowhere to run, they must fight. Fists fueled by survival instinct smash into the enemy. To protect each other, the usually gentle boys unleash shocking strength, leaping down to crush their opponents with thunderous force. Every punch is for survival, every impact accompanied by a roar. They display moving courage in the face of despair. A brief pause. They stand back to back, gasping for air. Exhausted but unyielding, they face the swarm of suited thugs surrounding them. The enemy leader steps forward, glancing at his fallen men with a cruel, amused smile. Didn't expect you to fight this well. The leader taunts them, his words like poison barbs piercing their pride, trying to provoke the exhausted boys. Tension snaps. What? Scared to look weak in front of your friends? The insult ignites pure rage. Tears of blood well up as reason snaps. Enough. With a furious roar, he lands a heavy punch squarely on the leader's face. This strike is for dignity, and for his brothers. Violence erupts under the cover of night. A fist flies, smashing into the opponent's face with a sickening crunch, as raw anger transforms into a brutal assault. A roar tears through the air, but the counterattack is relentless. In a split second, a fist strikes like a phantom, sending blood spraying as brutal suppression explodes into visible agony. Stamina depleted, every breath feels like swallowing shards of glass. Clutching his only weapon, bloodshot eyes widen, wringing out the last drop of defiance from the depths of despair. A malicious taunt comes from the shadows behind. Before he can turn, the fatal blow lands. Searing pain pierces his skull instantly, sending the world spinning into chaos. His body is flung like a broken kite, crashing heavily onto the ground. Amidst the rising dust, he curls up in agony, a testament not just to physical trauma, but to the despair of overwhelming odds. Distracted by his friend's plight, he screams in fury, but that moment of vulnerability is hell itself. A devastating blow strikes his unguarded side, drawing blood and a gut-wrenching cry. There is no mercy, only continued atrocity. A cold soul ruthlessly tramples on dignity, each impact declaring that this is not a fight, but a one-sided slaughter. Looking down with utter contempt, the aggressor revels in the thrill of dominance. In the face of such suffocating violence, the fallen are like lambs to the slaughter, helpless to turn the tide. The fight ends, and dead silence reclaims the night. In this cold urban jungle, the defeated are dragged away like trash, leaving only bloodstains on the ground to witness the cruelty. Meanwhile, the air on the steps grows heavy. Young Chan, having escaped, recounts the uneven hunt to Yu-Ijin, his voice trembling as guilt threatens to swallow him whole. "It's all my fault." He lowers his head, tears welling up. His friends sacrificed themselves to cover his escape, a heavy debt that now feels like a knife piercing his heart. Ijin's silence is more terrifying than rage. He offers no blame, only coldly asks for the location. In those usually indifferent eyes, a storm is now brewing. Without hesitation, Ijin turns and steps into the darkness. His retreating figure is resolute and solitary. He goes not just to rescue, but to fulfill a silent vow to family and friends. Memories flash back, the laughter of the past ringing in his ears. Back then, they only cared about winning games, never imagining reality's level would be this cruel and bloody. In this moment, cowardice is cast aside. Young Chan snaps his head up, eyes burning with fire. "I'm going too!" It is the shocking courage of the weak exploding to protect what they cherish. Watching the two leave, those left behind fall into deep thought. Go Suk-ju stands on the overpass, the setting sun stretching his shadow as the scales within his heart sway violently. "You're not going!" The senior's question strikes like a blow. It is not just an inquiry, but an interrogation of his conscience and his bottom line as a friend. Those words shatter his last defense. In a world ruled by gang codes, the senior reminds him, strip away that shell, and you are, first and foremost, a student of flesh and blood. A smile of relief quirks his lips, the lightness of rediscovering himself. Go Suk-ju turns around, his eyes no longer clouded by confusion, but filled with the resolve to rush into battle. Seeing his reckless retreat, the hesitant girl is also ignited by this passion. Under the setting sun, the shadows of the youth converge in one direction. For friends, they will march against the world. The man in the suit issues a stern warning to keep her away, but under her sharp gaze, his facade crumbles, replaced by awkward sweat and nervous hesitation. While the girl frowns in annoyance, the boy is consumed by anxiety, terrified at the thought of Ijin facing 20 enemies alone, sweat dripping down his face. Undeterred, the three march forward into the sunset. Despite the danger ahead, the gray-haired boy leads with a gaze of chilling calm and resolve. He claims coldly that it's only for his classmates, but as he feels his companion's intense gaze, a flicker of emotion cracks his icy mask. Under the neon lights, his companion smirks with confidence, while he remains grim and alert, scanning the surroundings like a lone wolf ready to strike. The dark alley is a mess of scattered weapons and bloodstains, sending shockwaves of terror through the arriving students. A brutal battle just took place here. Trembling hands pick up the shattered phones. The deliberate damage confirms their worst fears. This is a kidnapping, and the gravity of the situation is suffocating. In the blood-scented abandoned space, the boy stands like a reaper. His cold eyes betray no emotion, only a terrifying, lethal intent ready to erupt. Faced with the mysterious gang, his companion freezes in panic, while the trench-coated thugs sneer with contempt, dismissing the students as mere prey. Faced with insults and taunts calling him a coward, he remains unerringly quiet, standing against the light like the suffocating silence before a storm. Just as they attempt to question the enemy, a dangerous presence looms. From the blue-purple shadows, a hostile figure approaches from behind, radiating violent intent. The fight erupts instantly. He dodges a heavy blow and counters with a thunderous punch to the face, the sickening thud and spraying blood echoing through the night. Giving them no chance to react, his fists move like lightning. Every strike is precise and lethal, the sound of breaking bones marking the collapse of his enemies before absolute power. A blade slices the air, blood sprays, and with a cold expression, he slams the last resistor into the ground, his ruthlessness freezing the very air around them. The battle ends in seconds. Staring at the thugs scattered on the ground, his companions are left dumbstruck, forgetting to breathe in their disbelief of what they just witnessed. Questioned about the whereabouts of the others, he stares at his blood-stained hands and sinks into a deep silence, his eyes betraying an unspeakable pain and inner struggle. Even battered and bloody, the thug curses venomously, but his defiance is met only by a blinding light, the brutal, final strike that ends the conflict. Accompanied by a bone-chilling thud, the brutal sight of a head smashing into the ground freezes the onlookers' blood, paralyzing them with fear of such inhuman violence. "I'll handle the interrogation from here," he states with undeniable authority. The scene shifts to a neon-lit shop front, where a new storm is brewing. Chaos erupts in the bustling restaurant as the attacked man writhes in a pool of blood, groaning in agony, the peaceful night shattered into pieces. In the aftermath of brutality, the assailant laughs maniacally, blood smearing his face as he relishes the twisted agony of his prey. Reinforcements arrive, but not for rescue. They drag in fresh victims, pushing the atmosphere deeper into an abyss of despair. Memories pierce like a poisoned thorn. The blade that struck him, the unhealed wound by the see-all reminders of the humiliation he endured. The question echoes in the empty room. 10 elites defeated by 4 high schoolers? It's not just a failure, it's an indelible stain of shame. The blonde leader's voice is ice-cold, every word a verdict. If this incompetence continues, the organization will have to reconsider your worth. The memory of that rainy night crashes back, a bone-deep defeat. Rage and shame intertwine, igniting the flames of revenge in his eyes. Back in reality, 2 boys kneel, trembling. The leader looks down with sneering contempt, viewing them as mere lambs to the slaughter. Hearing that one escaped, Taisu's rage boils over instantly. His hysterical roar sends chills down the spines of his own men. He steps closer, his cigarette glowing in the gloom, voice dripping with malice. "Tell me, where are those 2 rats hiding?" Patience snaps, a heavy fist smashes into a face. Violence erupts with a roar. "Open your damn mouth, you bastard." A bloodied blade inches toward the throat, the final ultimatum. "I only need one. The first to talk gets to leave alive. We'll follow you to school, ruin your lives completely." This psychological torture cuts deeper than physical pain, suffocating them with despair. Even as he vomits on his knees, the boy's eyes burn with unyielding fury, locked onto the arrogant thug, refusing to beg. Suddenly, a terrifying force erupts. The figure they deemed weak strikes back, sending the tormentor flying with immense impact. It happens too fast. Seeing their comrade drop instantly, the once arrogant thugs are now paralyzed, terror creeping onto their faces. Chaos reigns. The figure tears through the crowd like a rampaging beast, whipping up a bloody storm that no one can stop. Meanwhile, a dull, heavy thud echoes from outside. The sound of shattering bone leaves those inside frozen in confusion. Before they can react, a body crashes through the doors, smashing onto a table. A deadly silence instantly grips the entire room. As the dust settles, 3 figures walk in against the light. Their overwhelming aura freezes the air, the sound of judgment approaching. High schoolers in uniform stand before the gang. Covered in blood, Taesu roars, "How are you here? The time for vengeance has arrived." The sight freezes the air in their lungs. Seeing their friends battered and bleeding, the light in Ijin and Sikju's eyes dies out, replaced by a cold, deadly silence. Mockery pierces the room. Look who's back, the cowards who ran like frightened deer. The gang members sneer, their faces twisted in arrogance and amusement. But the atmosphere shifts uneasily. Seeing the duo return with such calm lethality, a chill runs down the thugs' spines, freezing the grins on their faces. No more words are needed. In an instant, muscles coil beneath their uniforms, eyes sharpen like blades. Two beasts are ready to tear through their prey. What are you waiting for? Kill them! With a roar, the dark mass of bodies surges forward like a tide, attempting to drown the two teenagers in sheer numbers. They think it's just a one-sided slaughter, relieved to wrap things up easily. However, a massive impact is about to shatter their ridiculous confidence. Combat erupts. Ijin moves as a blur, a vicious kick instantly detonating the room. Blood and screams become the prelude to this symphony of vengeance. Though heavily surrounded, Ijin remains terrifyingly calm. In the distance, the boss Kim Taesu smokes, his eyes revealing the cruelty and wariness of a beast. What is this? For guys dropped instantly. Watching their comrades fall, the thugs start to panic, their angry roars laced with poorly hidden fear. In the confined space, Ijin becomes a reaping machine. Every strike echoes with the sound of breaking bones as he carves a bloody path through the human sea. Clubs rain down, but fail to touch the blue blur. Ijin traces a deadly arc in midair, blasting away enemies who try to strike from the blind spots. Even when pinned by numbers, Ijin's counterattack is swift and brutal. Like an enraged lone wolf, he teaches his enemies the true meaning of despair with every strike. Witnessing this inhuman combat prowess, the kidnapped friends watch in stunned silence. The usually quiet Ijin now reveals a side that is chillingly ruthless. Nearby, Sukju fights a desperate battle. Though bleeding from the mouth, his fists clench tighter. Driven not by victory but by brotherhood, he refuses to fall. In the chaos, Sukju drops to one knee, gasping for air. Yet his gaze remains locked forward. In this moment, the bronze gamer awakens a challenger's spirit. "Don't look down on me!" Sukju roars, charging the enemy. He channels all his rage into a single punch, an aura that terrifies even the hardened gangsters. The heavy punch connects. With a sickening thud, the enemy's jaw is shattered. Sukju proves with action that for his friends, he too can be a feared warrior. Watching his elite men crumble, Kim Taesu's expression twists from anger to madness. He realizes this isn't a school brawl. He has kicked an iron plate. The floor is a mess, the scent of blood heavy in the air. Jae-hyung stares speechless at the carnage. It's not just relief of rescue, but a deep awe of such power. Groans fill the room as the once arrogant gang now writhes on the floor in agony. There was no suspense in this fight, only the crushing weight of absolute violence. As the dust settles, chaos reigns. The red-haired thug stares in disbelief at his fallen comrade, while two suited figures coldly survey the hellish aftermath from the shadows. 30 men taken down by just 2 kids? The suits stare in disbelief at the carnage. The red-haired boss narrows his golden eyes, radiating a dangerous, predatory calculation through the gloom. The air freezes in tension. Facing the ferocious enemy, the gray-haired boy stands alone amidst the carnage. His deathly calm silences the roaring bloodlust around him. Negotiations end, violence erupts. A bone-crushing impact sends blood spraying as a heavy punch connects, launching the opponent through the air and shattering the silence. This isn't human strength. The blonde thug grips his weapon in terror, screaming in despair as he faces a demon-like opponent who has completely shattered his will to fight. Perched on the debris, the suits look down like vultures. With mocking sneers, they advance on their exhausted prey, savoring the sadistic thrill of the hunt. Bloodlust boils over. With a grotesque grin, the red-haired man unleashes a savage punch. Every strike echoes with breaking bones, pushing the fight to a primitive climax. No mercy given. An iron grip crushes his throat, choking the life out of him. A split second of suffocating pain is followed by a devastating slam into the void. The shame of losing to high schoolers burns worse than the wounds. Feeling the organization's wrath, desperation takes over. He grips his dagger, eyes flashing with suicidal madness. A flash of cold steel. The dagger thrusts with lethal intent, piercing the chest instantly. Time seems to freeze, leaving only the dull sound of impact and the attacker's twisted face. But that's the end of it. Blue energy explodes, swallowing the attacker whole. Amid screams of agony, the red-haired man is blasted away, crashing violently against the barricade. The dust settles. On this ravaged battlefield, bodies lie fallen. From the shadows, sharp eyes silently observe the aftermath, assessing the brutal cost of this confrontation. Meanwhile, down the corridor, a student freezes in shock. Cold sweat drips down his face as his mind goes blank, unable to comprehend the surreal scene unfolding before him. Battered and broken, they still support each other. Answering a concerned question with a pained smirk, the blond boy hides the heavy reality of survival behind bitter sarcasm. In real life, you are a challenger. Pointing a bruised finger, he offers the ultimate praise. A novice in the game, perhaps, but on the battlefield of loyalty, he is an invincible hero. However, rage burns in the shadows. You useless bastards. The organization's superior explodes in fury, livid that his subordinates failed to clean up the mess properly. In the dim hideout, the air is suffocating. Two battered underlings cower before their enraged boss, trembling as they apologize, fear clinging to them like a shadow. Does sorry fix anything? The furious man kicks his injured subordinate, screaming hysterically. Losing the chance to expand his power has turned him into an uncontrollable beast. The beating continues until a commanding voice cuts through. That's enough. A bearded man steps from the shadows, freezing the brutal scene instantly with just 2 words. In the damp, blood-scented darkness of the basement, a cold stare pierces through the tortured captive. Perhaps you might still be useful. Meanwhile, on a terrace shrouded in twilight, a conspiracy unfolds amidst swirling smoke. The kill order has been given. Men were sent a while ago. They should have met by now. The room's temperature drops as the boss speaks with ruthless precision. Kids or not, they pay for messing with us. Make sure to break at least an arm or a leg. Cut to the neon-lit exterior of Radio City, where undercurrents swirl beneath the surface. An urgent shout of boss shatters the night's facade. Inside the crimson-lit room, a furious roar echoes. While his subordinate loses control, the man on the sofa remains icy calm, listening to the report. Why? The hand holding the cigarette pauses. Upon hearing new recruits mess with that student, his indifferent gaze instantly sharpens like a blade. Realizing the situation has spiraled, he furrows his brow, suppressing rage. Those idiots. Sending hidden in to silence the kid just to cover up their shameful loss? Call the boys. Before the order lands, the subordinate grins savagely. Boss, they heard you're helping that benefactor. Everyone is already gathered and itching to go. The door handle turns with a heavy metallic clack. Thugs crack their knuckles, eyes gleaming with bloodlust. Perfect. We were looking for an excuse to play. At the end of the corridor, the familiar silhouette emerges from the purple haze. As men bow and shout welcome back, boss, the king of the streets returns. Cha Dusik bows slightly, his voice low and commanding, the calm before the storm. Sorry boys, but we have business to handle before we drink. Yes, boss. The thunderous response echoes their hunger for battle. The city night is about to be painted in blood and chaos. Meanwhile, on the dim streets, hurried footsteps break the silence. The hunters grin cruelly. Found them faster than we expected. Cornered, 3 menacing figures close in. Sorry to interrupt the date, but you're coming with us. The boy clenches his fist, sweat dripping as despair sets in. Just then, blinding headlights tear through the darkness. Amid screeching tires, A flood of shadows pours onto the street, catching everyone off guard. Car doors fly open, and suited men march out in formation, their steps like war drums. The arrogant thugs panic instantly. Who are these guys? A large hand grips a thug's head, voice dripping with mocking menace. I told you to hang out with friends. Looks like the whole gang is here. A flash of cold steel. No words, just the slash of a blade and splattering blood. The thugs are harvested like dry grass, screams piercing the night. Recognizing the attacker, the thug leader's pupils constrict in terror, voice trembling. Cha Dusik? Why are you here? No misunderstanding. The blade presses coldly against the throat. Cha Dusik, eyes like a demon, delivers the final verdict. Take me to Kim Chu Man. Under the purple neon glow, Ijin exhales smoke, his voice low and menacing. Leave children's fights to children. Why bring adults into this? The thug freezes, while Cha Dusik frowns, realizing the gravity of the situation. The night street reeks of danger as Cha Dusik looms over the boy, disbelief in his voice. You came all the way here just for that kid? That's not how things work. The scene shifts abruptly from gang tension to a cozy dinner. Da-yoon closes her eyes, slurping noodles in pure bliss, her cheeks flushed with warmth, as if the whole world melts into this soup. Ijin watches silently, his gaze softening. Da-yoon stares at the empty plate, scratching her head shyly. It's been so long. Did I eat too fast? The air is filled with a long-lost peace. A sharp ringtone breaks the silence. Ijin picks up his phone. Cha Dusik flashes on the screen. His eyes narrow slightly as he answers, voice shifting back to cold calculation. What is it? Cha Dusik's voice comes through with gruff concern. Hearing Ijin is eating convenience store food, the gangster scoffs. Growing kids shouldn't eat that trash. I'll treat you to barbecue sometime. But Dusik reconsiders, thinking a fancy meal might be too much coming from him. So he downgrades the offer to cup noodles. Ijin holds the phone, utterly confused. Huh? What do you mean, cup noodles? Clearing the air, Ijin simply says he doesn't want anything expensive. Dusik smiles on the other end. In that moment, a strange, grounded bond forms between the gangster and the teenage mercenary. Yet in the shadows, danger never sleeps. In a dim room, a red-haired man stands, like a demon over trembling captives. The gun barrel radiates the chill of death. A storm is brewing. Sunset bathes the school in red as the dismissal bell rings like a melody. Boys collapse on their desks, celebrating the end of PE. The darkness from before feels like a phantom from another world. Yuna excitedly suggests gaming, completely ignoring her friend's worry about her arm injury. Her eyes are determined, as if saying, a little scratch won't stop me from playing. Ko Suk-ju stares skeptically at Yuna's flexing fingers, warning her not to troll the team because of pain. Yuna fires back, the two clashing with intense competitive spirit. Despite the banter, Suk-ju turns to the silent Ijin and extends an invite. Hey, you coming? Ijin pauses, surprised to be included in their plans. Suk-ju scratches his neck, muttering awkwardly, I'm buying. I owe you one. It's the clumsiest, most sincere way for the delinquent to show gratitude. The moment Ijin agrees, the class erupts. Yuna's eyes go wide, and others gather around in excitement. Even the usually arrogant rich kid raises his hand, shouting to join. Facing Yuna's expectant gaze, the flustered boy stammers his reply. The air buzzes with a restlessness and subtle romance unique to adolescence, a gathering of ordinary high schoolers. However, on their way to the PC cafe, someone calls out to Ijin. It's not a hostile challenge, yet Ijin's gaze sharpens instantly, tightening the relaxed atmosphere. It turns out to be just a question about gaming rank. When Ijin honestly admits he's bronze, the guy flashes a superior, contemptuous smirk. That scoff is dripping with mockery. Watching the guy walk away smugly, Ijin, the legendary mercenary who dominated battlefields, feels an indescribable surge of irritation over a simple smirk. The PC cafe descends into chaos. Screens flash, screams echo. ULT now. Why are you running? In this messy virtual war, the noobs are experiencing despair worse than a real battlefield. Laughter fills the arcade, but Aijin puts on his headphones, isolating himself from the world as he walks home alone. The phone breaks the silence. Just as his sister's gentle voice fades, he sees them at the corner of his family, waiting for him. Meanwhile, his friends enjoy their carefree evening, discussing snacks for a supermarket run, faces glowing with ordinary happiness. Amidst fresh produce, Yuna points and laughs. This warm, domestic routine was once a luxury Aijin could never dream of. Walking under the night sky, friends offer to help with the heavy bags, but Aijin's gaze drops, his instincts suddenly catching a disturbance. Under the dim light of a hair studio, Aijin freezes. His pupils constrict as he locks onto a menacing silhouette standing in the darkness. Beneath the hood, cold blue eyes pierce through him. A figure from the battlefield has returned, bringing the scent of death. Memories of rain overlap with reality. Those purple eyes look down with mockery and bloodlust, whispering the code, "Long time no see, 001." Battlefield smoke and explosions detonate in his mind. Past faces clash with present danger. Aijin's heart pounds, the reckoning is here. Suddenly, Grandpa's innocent voice comes from behind. Is he a friend? Aijin stiffens, suppressing the storm inside, afraid to turn around. He is, my friend. Aijin forces out the lie. Oblivious, Grandpa warmly introduces himself to the killer, the air thick with suffocating tension. Hidden from sight, a hand grips a weapon. 006 smiles eerily. The pleasure is mine. Their gazes clash, murder lurking beneath the pleasantries. 006 pushes further, smiling with a lethal test. Long trip. Why not stay for dinner? Every word dances dangerously on Aijin's breaking point. No, just passing through. Aijin cuts him off sharply, eyes signaling silence, and swiftly drags this ticking time bomb away from his family. Away from family, the mask drops. 006 mocks, "You look good for a corpse," then drops the bomb. The camp knows Aijin is alive. The lighter flicks, illuminating 006's complex expression. He exhales smoke. The kill order is coming. I just got here before them. Tension peaks, but 006 suddenly shifts gears, clutching his stomach. Finding you was exhausting. Got any food, 001? In the convenience store, 006 devours ramen like a starving teen. Aijin watches in silence, the moment absurdly peaceful yet precious. If the camp hasn't found me, how did you? 006 puts down his chopsticks, eyes deepening. Because I knew you were alive. No one knows you better. Against a cold city backdrop, former comrades sit face to face. 006 mentions 032 with a playful smirk that hides a warning. The fewer people know, the better. The air freezes. As they acknowledge their shared secret, the floodgates of memory burst open, engulfing the silence in the roar of a massive explosion. Scorching flames paint the sky red, a living hell. Amidst the hail of bullets, the fallen bodies of comrades look tragic against the firelight, a nightmare that refuses to fade. Muzzle flashes tear through the darkness. With eyes cold as steel, every pull of the trigger follows the only law of survival they ever knew: kill or be killed. Smoke clears, leaving Aijin standing alone in the ruins. He once obeyed like a dog, but in that moment, for the sake of a friend, he chose to defy orders. Reality snaps back. A red glint flares in 006's eyes, his grip tightening on the bottle as he delivers a chilling warning. If you wanted to disappear, you should have stayed out of reach. The atmosphere is suffocating. 006 studies the recovered Aijin with a complex gaze. Maybe this ordinary life changed you. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Breaking the tense standoff, 006 casually picks up his phone. His nonchalance radiates an unsettling sense of danger, as if he is calculating his next move. Eyes fixed on the screen, 006 falls into thought. Behind this seemingly casual gesture, an invisible web is being spun, trapping them both in danger once again. The truth drips like poison. The order to kill has already been given. A desperate figure whispers in the dark. Sorry, they found you sooner than I expected. The order is to kill you. The killing intent vanishes instantly. 006 asks about recycling rules, a mundane question so jarringly out of place for a killer that it sends chills down the spine. Before leaving, 006 drops a cryptic remark. I like the current you better than the old 001. It sounds like a farewell, but feels like a silent declaration of war. 006 vanishes into the night. Meanwhile, Kosikju's moment of peace is shattered by a ringing phone, the name Yu Aijin flashing on the screen, signaling the approaching storm. Aijin's voice is unprecedentedly serious. I need a favor. Pull security footage. Find a target, and never take your eyes off him. As Sukju hesitates, Aijin drops the ultimatum. I need it yesterday. Because if 006 strikes, his sister and grandfather will be the first to fall in line. He will never let anyone cross.